What's the best gift you've ever gotten? I was 14 when my mom dropped me off at my aunt's house for what she called a little vacation. She was slurring her words again, cigarette hanging from her mouth like always. Said she'd pick me up in a few days. That was 3 years ago. My Aunt Rita lived alone in this tiny house that smelled like coffee and old books. She worked double shifts at the diner and barely talked to me those first few weeks. I figured she was just stuck with me, counting down days until mom came back. I kept my stuff in trash bags, ready to leave at any second. Rita would leave me 20 bucks on the kitchen counter every morning for food. I'd eat cereal for breakfast, ramen for lunch, more cereal for dinner. Sometimes she'd come home and find me watching TV in the dark, and she'd just nod and disappear into a room. One day, I was walking home from school and saw this kid, Alex, getting pushed around by some older guys behind the gas station. They were calling him names through his backpack in a puddle. I knew Alex from algebra class. Quiet kid, always ate lunch alone. The bullies saw me watching and told me to keep walking unless I wanted the same treatment. I should have listened, but something about seeing Alex on the ground, looking so scared, reminded me of myself those first nights at Rita's, so I picked up a rock and threw it at the biggest guy's head hard. He turned around, blood trickling down his forehead, absolutely furious. "You're dead, freak," he yelled, charging at me. I ran faster than I'd ever run in my life, but he caught up and slammed me face first into the concrete. My lips split open, nose started gushing blood. They kicked me in the ribs a few times before getting bored and leaving. Alex helped me up, thanked me, and we both limped home. I snuck into Rita's house through the back door, trying to clean myself up before she saw me, but she was standing in the kitchen when I walked in. Took one look at my busted face, and her expression changed completely. Not angry, not disappointed, something else I couldn't figure out. "What happened?" she asked quietly. I made up some story about falling off my bike. She didn't believe me, but didn't push it either. Just got me some ice and helped clean the blood off my shirt. That weekend, Rita asked if I wanted to help her paint the spare room. Said she was thinking about making it more permanent. I didn't know what that meant, but I said yes anyway. We spent Saturday afternoon painting the walls blue. Not talking much, but not uncomfortable either. On Sunday morning, she put a plate of actual pancakes in front of me. Not the frozen kind, real ones. "Figured you were tired of cereal," she said with this small smile. While I was eating, she handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter from the family court. Rita had filed for legal guardianship. She wanted to adopt me officially. "If that's what you want," she said, not looking at me. "I know I'm not your mom, but I was thinking maybe I could be something else, something better." I stared at the papers, not understanding why. I asked. Rita sat down across from me, folding her hands on the table. "Because somebody should choose you," she said. "And I'm choosing you." That's when I started crying. Not sad crying, the other kind. The kind that happens when you realize you're not just surviving anymore. You're actually living somewhere with someone who wants you there. 3 months later, the adoption was finalized. Rita gave me a key to the house and said, "Welcome home, kiddo." She also told me she'd known all along that I didn't fall off any bike. Turns out she'd called the school, found out about the fight, and was proud of me for standing up for someone else, even when it meant getting hurt. I didn't know what to say to that. No one had ever said they were proud of me before, not for anything that really mattered. Not for being brave or kind or just showing up. My mom used to say I was too much trouble, too emotional, too loud. But Rita, she looked at me like I was worth something. Like I was something. Over the next few weeks, the spare room started feeling like my room. Rita let me pick the curtains. She bought me a second-hand desk from the thrift store. Even found my favorite comic books online and stacked them neatly beside my bed. Every night before her shift, she'd leave me little notes on the fridge. Silly stuff like, "Don't forget to eat," or "Math test today, go destroy it." I started collecting those notes in a shoebox. Still have them, and you know what? Alex and I became real friends. Turns out we both had more in common than bruises and awkward lunch periods. We'd meet at that gas station every week, but now it was for slushies and dumb jokes instead of fights. He even helped me build a bookshelf in my new room. We called it the Fortress. But none of it would have happened without Rhea. She didn't just give me a roof or food or clothes. She gave me stability. She gave me the freedom to be a kid again. To mess up and still feel safe. To belong. So yeah. The best gift I ever got wasn't wrapped in paper or topped with a bow. It was a key on a chain, a place to call home. A second chance, and someone who chose me on purpose. Story to daughter cut me from her wedding I paid for, so I canceled everything behind her back and watched her burn. No one can hurt you the way your own children can. It's so true. I'm in a similar situation. My own daughter, Ava, 27, female, blocked me from attending her wedding. I've been drinking and sulking for a week now. Yesterday was supposed to be her wedding, which was sponsored by me. Yes, I was paying for it as a wedding gift. Ava was not an easy child. I had a whole lot of nightmares raising her, so when she told me about her wedding plans, I was happy that she was finally settling down with someone she loved. She and her fiancé had money problems and couldn't put together a decent wedding, so I pitched in. And what do I get in return? I was blocked from attending. I can't tell you how devastating it is. A few days ago, I called the wedding planner to add my brother to the guest list. He said that the guest list was full. I asked him to send me the complete guest list to see if we could make any arrangements. He said AA had instructed him not to share the guest list with anybody. I told him I was her father and the one paying for the wedding, so they better comply with me. He was reluctant to share it, but when I threatened to call his boss, he finally sent me the list. When I saw it, my heart broke. My wife and I weren't on it. I called the wedding planner again and said there must be a mistake because neither my name nor my wife's was mentioned. He explained that he was specifically asked not to include our names. I couldn't believe it until he shared the email conversation between him and Ava. To make matters worse, they were instructed to block us from entering the venue. Can you imagine how heartbreaking that was? I knew my daughter resented me, but I could never have imagined that she hated me to the point where she wouldn't allow me to attend her wedding. I called her in a rage, but her phone was on voicemail. It was her bachelorette party that day. I left a message asking her to call me back, but she didn't call that day or the next. On the third day, asked me for the wedding, I showed up at her apartment where she was living with her fiancé. She said she couldn't meet me because she was busy with wedding preparations. By then, the wedding planner had told her I knew about the guest list, which is why she was avoiding me. I went there to get an answer from her, but her attitude only made my anger worse. I told her that I knew she had blocked me from attending the wedding. Her reply, well, good for you. It saved you time and energy to travel to the venue. I'll send the photographs of the wedding if I get the time. I completely lost my mind. There was no reason, no remorse, no apology, just this. I broke down at her cruelty. My anger turned into tears, and I asked for what I had done wrong to deserve this. She said I had always wronged her, first by rubbing a stepmom in her face, and then by mistreating her by taking other sides. She wanted me to defend her unconditionally, even when she was in the wrong. How could I defend her when she bullied my sister's daughter? I did protect her when she was caught taking pills in school and saved her from being expelled. She got into college because of me, yet despite everything I did, she chose to be ungrateful. When she saw me sobbing, she said I was spreading negativity in her house. I reminded her that I was paying for her wedding. She turned offensive and said I wasn't doing her any favors and that I owed her this. I lost my mind and told her I didn't owe her anything. I had done more than enough for her, and this wedding was indeed a favor. She asked me to leave, saying she didn't have time for my emotional drama. I went home and cried like a baby in front of my wife. Mercy, our stepmom Mercy, is a kind-hearted and forgiving person, but seeing me break down made her furious. For the first time, she encouraged me to take action against Ava. She said we couldn't let Ava continue to feel entitled to hurt us. Ava had been living off my money until a year ago when she finally got a decent job. That's why she had no savings For her wedding I had had enough. I decided to teach her a lesson. I canceled all the wedding arrangements. I barely got any money back from the advance payments, but I didn't care. I canceled the wedding venue and wanted to cancel the wedding planner. Too bad. I knew that would alert Ava and she could arrange something else. My plan was to ruin her big day. She already had her dress, so I let her keep that. I felt guilty while doing all this, but when I thought about it, I realized I had already done more than enough for her. If she didn't feel guilty about cutting me off from her wedding, why should I? On the day of the wedding, when the wedding planner arrived at the venue with the decorators and caterers, they were denied entry. It caused chaos. When the security showed them the cancellation email, wedding planner called me for the remaining payment, but I told them it was no longer my concern. They needed to take it up with Ava. They told me Ava had a scuffle with the venue guards when they blocked her ENT. She was almost arrested for trespassing, but was rescued by her fiancé just in time. She tried to call me, but I had blocked her number. She showed up at my house, but I had removed her access to the main gate. I wasn't afraid of her, but I wanted peace. There was no point in talking. She would only hurt me more with her words, just like she did when I went to her house. It was high time she faced the consequences of her actions. She was no longer a child who could be forgiven over and over. Ava didn't want relatives at her wedding. She wanted only her friends. I respected her choice. Thankfully, I didn't have to explain the wedding cancellation to my family. She had to deal with that with her friends. The only ones unhappy with what I did were my parents. They said we should never be ruthless to our children, no matter how cruel they are to us. I told them Ava had brought this upon herself. She had been mean and narcissistic her entire life. Still, no matter how much I justify my actions, the guilt is there. I put on a brave face, but deep down, I feel bad for stopping my own daughter's wedding. I don't know why I'm here writing this, but putting it down on paper has unburdened my heart. Update: thanks for all the moral support. I didn't expect people would applaud me for my actions. I thought I would be called an idiot for being so vindictive towards my own daughter. Some of you asked about the background of A's hatred toward us. Sorry I missed that point earlier. I didn't know how this format works, but here are the details. My wife Mercy, 45, female, is my second wife. AA is my daughter from my first marriage. Her mother, my first wife, and I separated when AA was 7. Oz mother found someone else and left me for him. They were moving to Europe and didn't want AA, so I got custody of her. I remarried Mercy when Ava was 13, and since then Mercy and I have been facing Ava's wrath. She hates Mercy with a passion. It was understandable when she was a teenager. Seeing someone replace her mother must have been hard. Mercy, a teacher and trained children's counselor, assured me that AA would be fine once she reached adulthood. She believed AA would see me not just as her dad, but as an individual who needed a partner. I married 5 years after the divorce, hoping that once AA grew up, she'd appreciate that I had parented her alone. For those 5 years, her mother and her new husband didn't want anything to do with Ava. Unfortunately, Ava wasn't grateful at all. Instead, she grew more hateful towards both me and Mercy. Things got so bad that I had to send Ava to live with my sister, who had a daughter of the same age, hoping she'd find companionship there. Things were smooth for a few months, but less than a year later, my sister gave up. She told me that AA and her daughter fought like cats and dogs, and with it being their final year of school, my sister didn't want her daughter's grades to suffer because of these petty fights, so I had to bring AA back. Ava stayed with us until the end of high school, but during vacations, she would stay with my parents. Eventually, she refused to come back home and said she would finish high school while living with them. Since my parents' house was far from her school, I arranged for carpooling services. That arrangement worked for a while, as long as she was happy and get peace. When her high school results came out, however, they were disastrous. That's when I found out she had fallen in with the wrong crowd, students who were taking pills, and she had a toxic boyfriend. That explained why she wanted to live with my parents. She would sneak out after they went to bed and wander the city until after midnight. She had to repeat her final year of high school. Getting her through college was another nightmare. Thank God I had some contacts who helped her secure a place at a decent college, because with her poor grades and miserable attitude, she wouldn't have gotten in anywhere else in college. She once again got involved with the wrong crowd and immersed herself in drugs. Things escalated to the point where she had to be sent to rehab. She eventually graduated at the age of 25, but the following year she relapsed and he had to admit her to rehab again for a few months. It wouldn't be rude to call her a pain in the but because she really has been. She's constantly troubled me, embarrassed me, and made my life miserable. Thank goodness for my understanding wife Mercy. Had she been any other woman, she might have manipulated me into abandoning Ava, but instead, she was the one who always encouraged me to be patient. I can't thank Mercy enough for all the support and sacrifices she's made. For both AA and me, Ava's main issues seemed to be that he remarried, and even more so that I married Mercy. You see, Mercy isn't a Native American. Her family originally came from the Middle East. They were immigrants living in the US, and she grew up in an NGO because her parents couldn't afford to raise their 5 daughters. They had fled at a war-torn region, arriving in the US with nothing. That's what drew me to Mercy. Despite her traumatic childhood and limited resources, she overcame the odds, earned a master's degree, secured a high-paying teaching job, and built a life for herself. She's a self-made woman, but Ava calls her a gold digger. I run a flourishing export business, which has been in our family for 2 generations, so yes, we have some generational wealth. AA believes Mercy married me for money because this is her first marriage and it's my second. As argument is, why would Mercy marry a single dad 12 years older than her? If not for money. I'm 57 and Mercy is 45. I'm not sure who put these ideas into his head, but that's her reasoning for calling Mercy a gold digger. Some of you also asked if AA Smother was involved in all of this. The truth is she's never contacted me or Ava since our divorce. The last I heard, she was in Germany, and that's all I know. As for the current situation, after canceling Ava's wedding, she tried to reach out to me to unleash her anger, but I blocked her from contacting me through any platform. My parents were unhappy that I canceled the wedding and offered to pay for it themselves if AA wanted to reschedule, but AA turned on them, accusing them of siding with me. She even chased them out of her house, saying cruel things and telling them never to visit her again. She holds them responsible for exposing her high school substance use, though it wasn't them, it was her teacher who happened to go to the same gym as me. After this, my parents changed their stance and agreed that I was right to cancel the wedding. I can't let AA feel entitled to use and hurt us however she wants. I'm still not in contact with her and don't know what she's up to. My parents visited her 2 days ago, which was 10 days after her supposed wedding date, and they haven't gotten married yet, so I'm guessing they're planning a new date or just haven't gone through with it. Oh, and I blocked her credit card, the one I was paying for. She hadn't been using it much after getting her job, but she still had access to it. I'm sure this will anger her, but I don't care anymore after learning how she treated my parents. I have no guilt. They are in their late 70s and they've always loved and protected her. Ava deserved to be cut off. Update: hey guys, I know it's been over a year since I updated this thread, but I have been in constant touch with everyone who commented on the post or PM me. After a few weeks, I got to know that Ava had married her fiancé in a private ceremony with just their close friends. I was happy for her and wished her a good life. I wasn't connected to her on social media, so I didn't know what was happening in her life. My niece told me that AA had moved to a neighboring city with her husband and she had updated her Facebook status about it. Life was running as usual until a week ago when I got a call from an unknown number. It was Ava's husband, Matt. I was tense, thinking that something might have happened to her. He assured me that she was fine, but said she wanted to meet me in person, which came as a surprise. I asked him why, but he said he would explain. When we met, he mentioned that he was in town and suggested meeting up for dinner. I agreed, secretly hoping it was a chance for AA and Annie to reconcile. I thought she might be too ashamed to face me and that Matt was acting as a middleman. With high hopes, I went to meet him, but to my dismay, Matt showed up alone. When I asked about AA, he said he didn't know where she was. My heart sank, and I asked if something had happened to her. He then revealed that they were separated. Matt explained that Ava had been abusive during their marriage with severe anger issues. She would throw things and break household items during even minor arguments. He tolerated it for as long as he could, But eventually the situation became unbearable and they separated. Matt went on to say that AA had psychological issues and blamed others for any inconvenience she faced. She frequently fought with him, especially because they had moved to a new city for his job, even though Ava had found a similar paying job there. Despite this, she resented him for taking her away from her hometown. That was just one of many issues between them. Matt said he wanted to meet in person to apologize. He admitted that he had witnessed Ava's cruelty towards me, Mercy, and my parents, but didn't intervene because AA had manipulated him against all of us. He regretted overlooking the red flags and bringing misery upon himself. I told him that none of this was his fault. It was averse to some extent. I blamed myself for not raising her properly. I also apologized to him for everything he had been through with Ava. Matt then asked me for a favor. He said Ava had been distraught by